Hey guys, what's going on? It's John here for an NHL Draft 2013 recap video where I'll go over just briefly like the first round, go through the top 10 picks and then a couple other notables that got drafted and also a couple trades that went down. So, as you all probably know, it happened this past Sunday and it was at the Prudential Center where the New Jersey Devils play. And the Colorado Avalanche had the first overall pick and um, prior to Sunday, Joe Sakic and Patrick Waugh, who are the two new guys who are going to be the leaders of the Avalanche for a while now, came out and said that they were going to take Nathan MacKinnon, even though everyone thought coming into this that Seth Jones was the obvious pick because Colorado needed defense and Jones is from Denver, so everyone thought it was a perfect match. But clearly the Avalanche thought otherwise, and they stuck to their word and picked Nathan MacKinnon first overall. He's also an interesting note. He is also from where Sidney Crosby grew up, so that's just an interesting thing. Number two, the Florida Panthers. They took Alexander Barkov, and he's 6'3". He's been playing in Finland against men, so people are thinking he can jump right in there and play in the National Hockey League next year, and potentially on a line with Jonathan Huberdeau, which would be a very entertaining line. This was a surprise though, because people thought that with Seth Jones sitting there, Florida was just gonna step right up and take him, but they opted not to. So the Lightning at the third overall spot had a choice between Jonathan Drouin and Seth Jones, and everyone knows publicly how the Lightning need like drastic help on defense. So, but I mean, they fell in love with Jonathan Drouin. They thought his skill set was too hard to pass up, so they took Jonathan Drouin third. So the Nashville Predators and their GM David Poile were just like, I at the beginning of the draft, no one would have ever guessed that Seth Jones would have dropped to them at 4. So it was an easy choice for Nashville, who now gets loaded up at defense. They lost Ryan Suter last year, but now they have Shea Weber locked up long term. You got Roman Josi, who's a good young defender, who they're really liking. Ryan Ellis. Now you add Seth Jones. I feel like I'm forgetting someone else, but yeah, the Predators, I mean, they pride themselves on defense anyway. And Seth Jones, I mean, he can learn from Shea Weber, and eventually maybe a defensive pairing with Shea Weber and Seth Jones would be deadly. But so Seth Jones went 4. Fifth pick, Carolina Hurricanes. There's a lot of trade rumors regarding this pick. Teams like the Maple Leafs were calling about this pick, but nothing ended up getting done. So the Hurricanes held on to the pick, and they took Elias Lindholm. Yeah, I don't really know a lot about Lindholm, but I mean, deep draft, so he's probably going to be a solid player for the Hurricanes for years to come. Sixth was the Calgary Flames. This was their first pick of 3 first-round picks, and they took scorer Sean Monahan. I believe he was the only player to score 50 goals this year in juniors, so he will be a great addition for the Flames, who are in a complete, dedicated rebuild right now. As I mentioned, they had 2 other first-round draft picks, and in those they took Emile Poirier and Morgan Klimchuk. So all 3 of them are forwards. You can clearly tell Calgary's objectives for this draft. Just load up in depth their forwards and just try to build up, get younger. 7th overall pick was held by the Edmonton Oilers, who finally cleaned their act up and took a defenseman in the first round. Year after year after year, 3 straight first overall picks, and they took forwards every single time, and they still can't make the playoffs. So they finally took big defenseman Darnell Nurse, and I love this pick so much, as a lot of the analysts do as well. His uncle is actually Donovan McNabb, and I was watching a lot of interviews with him, and he just seems like a great character guy who's going to work really hard, and actually he will prove himself in the NHL, and he could be ready for next year. 8th overall pick was the Buffalo Sabres, and they took defenseman Rasmus Ristolainen, and I don't think he'll be ready for next year, but he is definitely a solid defensive prospect, and he will be good for years to come. 9th overall pick. This is where it gets interesting. So the Devils held this pick, and the Devils traded for Corey Schneider, and all they had to give up was the 9th overall pick. And what makes it interesting is the Edmonton Oilers offered a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a top prospect, and the Devils only offered the 9th overall pick, and the Canucks went with the Devils. So clearly that shows how trading within a division they did not want to do, and I thought I was interested by that, and also the fact that this past 14 months they were telling Luongo, you're gonna go, Schneider's our guy, and now all of a sudden, oh, never mind, you're our number one star, you're our number one goalie. So and they had their owner fly down to Florida to meet Luongo personally on Sunday to tell him in person, but I think he found out the news before the owner got there, and Luongo declined to have any interviews because he was just in shock. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Rounding up the top 10 was Dallas Stars, and they took Russian Valery Nichushkin. Nichushkin, sorry, I don't know. Nichushkin, I don't know. So I'm sorry. Yeah, but there was rumors that the Lightning were looking at him at 3rd overall pick. He's they're saying he has the potential of someone like Evgeny Malkin, but the Russian risk factor in the draft still gets everyone apparently. So, but I mean, I think he could do well in Dallas. I don't think he'll be ready for next year. But really quick to wrap this up, Ryan Pulock went to the Isles, 15th overall. Islanders also traded for Cal Clutterbuck, and they traded away Nino Niederreiter. Frederic Gauthier went 21st overall to Toronto. Toronto also traded for Dave Bolin for 3 draft picks. And rounding out the first round was Ryan Hartman to the Blackhawks. Thanks for watching. This is the 2013 draft recap, and I'll talk to you guys next time.
We started from the bottom, but we racing to the top. And we never ever sleep, but got dreams of getting on. And times are looking hard, but you know we'll never stop. And we do it for the fans, cause these fans are all we got. But we ain't in this alone, we thankful for your help. I'm rapping heavyweight and reaching for that.